This is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really interesting things in their space, where they're doing things either through their journey or what they're doing in their life at that time, that we could take bits and pieces from that and hopefully bring them into our own lives as well. So we have one of those for sure today. Just before we jump into that, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that we have a connection with Epitome Sportswear. And, those are also for all of those high performance athletes and all those things out there. Definitely check that out. But it's also great stuff for just if you're going to a fall soccer game with your children or going for a hike, all of those different things. So definitely check it out. The thing that really fits well with us is that they also give back to the community they serve, and they are working to impact the inequities in opportunity for girls and women in sports. So for that reason, a portion of their profits go to organizations and initiatives for that support girls in sports. So check that out. You can go through our Instagram profile, and there's a discount code in there, or just go directly to epitomesportswear.com. Really happy to have Andrea Simulus with us today. She's a body recomposition coach that focuses on nutrition and low impact exercise for sustained fitness and wellness. She has an online coaching program, and through those and tips online, she's an influencer online as well. Helps make people have fitness fit into their lives. So first of all, I know you're super busy with those things, Andrea, so thanks very much for taking the time with us today.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, so the part I wanted to start with, I think, is that I think you've got one of those journeys that I think a lot of people, first of all, I think connect with a little bit because, you started into kind of what you're doing a little later in that time period. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey getting here and maybe how it was maybe a little different than what some people would assume?
I think all of my life, just kind of growing up, I grew up back in the 80s and 90s, 1990s, and you had that Weight Watchers era where thin is everything. All you could think about is just being thin, that fat-free era. And as I got older, about age of 35, I wanted to flip the script because I just felt like I was more like skinny fat.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that. So it's like, if I'm spending all this time trying to get healthy, trying to get fit, there must be a better way to not have to worry about my calories so much, be able to live free, have more energy, and build muscle. So that was kind of the answer for me. I'm like, how can I do this in a realistic way? I am a mom of four. And obviously throughout my pregnancies and things like that, I really strive to stay healthy. But at 35, I wanted to flip the script, and I knew I was aging. And so I'm like, what can I do differently? And the answer for me was understand nutrition, not just dieting, but what macronutrients are. And that kind of encompasses all diets. That's the carbohydrates, fats, and protein. So once I realized like my diet was not balanced at all, I'm like, okay, aha. And a lot of people talk about protein. That was something for me that I was missing a lot, was that protein. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to build muscle, I want to make sure I have that foundation of health first.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to lift heavy. And like a lot of the kind of notion of lifting heavy is I'm going to get bulky. That's not necessarily the case. It takes many years to get bulky. So I always encourage men and women to start training for strength, and you can always stop and maintain your muscle size at a certain point. So if
Yeah.
you clear your mind out of, oh, I don't want to look like this, or I don't want to be like this person, you're not going to be. You don't have to be. But train for strength and have that in your mind is, I'm going to get stronger, and this strength raises your metabolism, which allows you to eat more so that you're able to go out on the weekends and socialize with friends. And now you're not like trapped in a cycle of, okay, I always have to watch my calories and I have to, burn off these calories. It doesn't have to be that way. So once you kind of like burn the body, like let's say you're losing body fat. Once you lose that body fat, then you transition out of that phase to maintaining your healthy body, getting stronger, and that's the way you live forever. And I tell people, the way you're living now, you can live in your goal body kind of just as easily, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing something. If you're unhealthy, you're doing something, right? You're going to have to do something different. So choose your hard, right? Do you want to have more medical issues as you age? Or do you want to take that time in your day to get a little bit of exercise, get a little bit, like say 20 minutes of strength, and your future is done. So kind of plan for the next 10 years of your life. Where do you want to be? And that alone gets you excited. It's like, okay, I have a goal. I'm going to change the script. I don't have to be like my relatives or however people say I have to be.
Yeah, well, and so you mentioned the lifting heavy piece, which I
Yes.
think I think historically people also that are getting to the point where they are aging and doing things differently than maybe they would have done when they were 20 and 25, and I can speak from that personally. Um, but but I think it has become a little more talked about and probably more, I don't want to say accepted, but it is something where lifting heavy is not a bad thing as you get older. It's actually something that probably will be more beneficial than a lot of other things you can do. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And so people are like, oh, lifting heavy. Well, heavy to you might be 5 pounds to start off with.
Mhm.
So if you've never lifted before, 5 pounds is going to be heavy. So I train a lot of people over 60. They start with 2.5 pound dumbbells, and that is heavy for them, but it's pushing yourself. And they'll realize that in a couple months, they're lifting 5 pound dumbbells. And it's just as easy as when they were lifting the 2.5 pound dumbbell. So it's really, where are you at now and how can you challenge yourself, instead of like kind of open up your mind to expand it of, it's not just, ooh, lifting heavy equals bulky. Lifting heavy is kind of challenging yourself each and every time. And if it feels easy, pick up a heavier weight. Why not try that?
Mm.
That's how you get that change. Is like, if today feels easy, what can I do a little bit different to challenge myself?
And you did mention, I mean, a big part of what you do is looking at nutrition and macros and what you do from that end. Is there, with your approach, is there a lot of difference in how you treat that? I mean, obviously, people who are used to going on certain diets or certain ways of doing it approach macros very differently and may have this connotation of what that means. What is it for you, and how, and does that vary a lot depending on the person, or what would you say there?
So time and time again, macros really can equal a balanced diet. You can eat balanced macros. So if you see a pie chart, are you getting at least a balanced amount of protein, fat, and carbs? So I encourage people to download a free app, track your calories just for one day, and at the end of the day, it will show you your macronutrients. And you can ask yourself, is this even thing? So a lot of older people especially will realize that their protein is very, very low.
Mhm.
And so then if they raise it even slightly, even to 80 grams of protein, their pie chart shifts. So that's what makes it easy. It's not necessarily counting grams. It's kind of looking at the overall diet that you have and doing that percentage. And what we found with women over 35 especially, they do better with our hormones on a little bit higher fats. And that was exciting to me because growing up, I had it in me that low fat everything, low fat cheese, no egg yolks, things like that. And once I realized that I just need to eat regular whole food, have an egg once in a while, coconut oil. If I want to have milk, have whole milk. And what happened is my hormones was balanced. I was able to now stay leaner like I wanted to and look toned. Because a lot of about looking tone is being less body fat in a healthy way. And that's also being strong at the same time. So pretty much everyone can start with a healthy, balanced diet.
Yeah.
Kind of that's the ticket. Let's see if it's balanced at all. And then you kind of adjust it according to what you do. So it's not an all or nothing, which a lot of diets are. It's, where am I at today? And then you feel like your body will tell you. So if you're saying, hey, I'll eat a little bit higher fat today, how do I feel at the end of the day? And if you feel horrible, say a lot of, like, say the carnivore diet is high fats, you'll see that in the macro chart. That's pretty much all fats, right? So if you feel bad, hey, maybe I'll switch that back. And so that's what kind of visually what calorie tracking is. So I encourage people, try calorie tracking just for a couple weeks to see your pattern right now so you can split the script.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're chained to, but it's something that you really realize, what am I doing and why? What do I need to change? Really, you have to have that data first to go from there.
Now, the other thing that I think a lot of people, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, is people are worried about the time and not being able to have enough time to, to dedicate to working out or dedicate to kind of tracking their macros and things like that. And I just wonder two things. One is, how do you approach balancing those things, and how do you say that to a client, and then how do you do it yourself? I mean, you're obviously, you're a busy mom as well, and all of those things. Are there things that work to be able to make sure that you can kind of juggle all of those things when everybody has lots of things going on in their lives?
So little things like brushing your teeth, right? That takes time, but you get it in your habits. It becomes a habit like, hey, I'm going to do this because I don't want cavities. So a little bit of time, and a lot of tracking apps will have a free scanner where all you have to do is open your phone and scan the food, and boom, it's there. It's done. And it'll save your most recent foods. So it's like, boom. To me, it only takes a couple seconds to track my calories and track my food. So that part's going to be easy. So first you have to start, and you'll realize how much time that is. It's a couple minutes,
Yeah.
so that's not much time. And as far as exercising, it's going to be choose your heart, right? You're putting in any amount of time that you have today for your future. So I encourage women that are very, very busy, maybe have full-time jobs, 10-minute blocks. So I had a client that works at a hospital, and she's like, I commute all day. I'm at my desk all day sitting. I have no time. And I'm like, when you walk to the bathroom, maybe you walk around the bigger loop of the hospital, and that will add up. That will be your 10 minutes by the end of the day. And even if you can do 10 minutes of mini bands at your desk, that is better than nothing. And once you feel the consistency of like, hey, I'll just try 10 minutes, you will want more. You will want to find a way to make more time for this movement because it changes how you feel. It gives you that energy. So consistently try for 10 minutes a day and see how you feel. It's a very small amount of time that you need to begin with, and your body transforms rapidly because of that. And one thing I do, because I'm obviously a busy mom, I made fitness part of my child's experience. So on the weekends, we have family exercise where we go to the pool. My kids swim with me. They don't have to swim the whole time, but they love racing with me in the water. I'm building like not only I'm building memories with them. It's not just, hey, let's have exercise. So I'm learning how to run again faster. And so my son will run 2 miles with me. And he
Yeah.
thinks it's so fun. It's 100% attention on him. He can run faster than me. He loves it. So you're interacting with your children through fitness, and it doesn't become a chore. They don't see it as a chore, and in turn, they carry those things on for the rest of their life. So my son is in college now. He knows about macros. He knows about kind of setting up his own meal timing. He's influencing other teens. They're like, "Wow, what are you doing while you're carrying around your meal prep? I want to do that too."
Yeah.
So as a parent, it's exciting. You're not only impacting yourself, the ripple effect is for you and the generations beyond you of how you can flip the script for anyone. So something really important to me is both of my grandparents were morbidly obese. And as a child, I thought that's what happens when you're old. When you're 60, you're really heavy. You don't exercise anymore. They literally couldn't wear pants anymore. They got to such a large size. They never swam. And I just thought that that's the way it was, but it doesn't have to be. Like I grew up in Wisconsin. Like that's kind of like a heavier kind of group of people, but I don't have to be that way. I can make a choice. So thinking about that for yourself is like, you have endless possibilities. It's your choice to choose a different path. And it can be a small change, and it compounds each and every day.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure, because you're dealing with people, through your programs and things like that. How inspiring is that for you? Because I'm assuming you see and hear a lot of the feedback that comes from some of these people that are working with you. And I mean, what's that like to know that you're impacting them and ultimately that next level of people after them as well?
What I love is when there's always going to be some moment where it flips the script in your head, where you realize what you need to do and then you go and do it. So I was talking to a woman, she's in her 70s, and she was always complaining about she has no glutes, right? So even when you're older, you want like a body you're proud of. And she's like, I'm like, have you ever done the hip thrust machine? So that's going to build your glutes. So she never did it before. She got on it, barely could do one with zero weight. And I'm like, every time you do legs, like twice a week, you come on this machine and you just try. So she came like, and so that's all I told her. And she came back to me 3 months later and she's like, I can do 60 pounds. And she was so happy. She's like, this is it. I need to strength train. This is it. So it's really motivating to me and really cool to see that flip in your head, because that's what it took for me back when I was 35. It took one trainer saying, why would I want to change? I look fine.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to be better? You look fine. And I'm like, you know what? No. And so I tell everybody it's going to be a different thing for you. It's going to be a different why, but it's so powerful that one moment can just change the rest of your life.
Yeah. Now I understand you had something physically happen too, right? That you had to almost do that work back that some other people might have. I mean, it might not be something completely similar, obviously, but tell us about that, and that might be something for somebody who's maybe coming through injury and things like that too.
So I finally wanted to build all my muscle mass. I wanted to run really fast. So I got to run 75 miles in a week, which is the farthest I've ever run back 2 years ago. So it was really the peak of my fitness
Mhm.
at 40 years old. And the irony is, a month later, I was in a helicopter crash touring the Grand Canyon and like shattered my leg. My spleen was bleeding. Horrible incidents beyond that. So I ended up having 6 surgeries, wearing an external fixator on my leg. Losing 8 pounds of muscle mass was like a shell of your former self. And like, how do you come back from that? To me, is like, find the happiness in each day. How can you find joy in your day? And so to me, I encourage people to not put all your joy and energy just in fitness. You have to have other ways to cope beyond one mechanism, because I couldn't for 16 weeks I couldn't walk. I had to use a walker. So I wasn't able to do any exercise anymore. But I was okay because I had gratitude for still being alive, thankfulness. And each day, what can I do? Just find joy. You know what I mean? Even if it's watching a funny movie and laughing or whatever, it's like really when everything is kind of like your world is rattled, what's really important? You realize what's really important to you. And what was really important, I still had that despite all the trials that I went through. I still had my family. I still had the security. I had help doing that. So just thinking about that too is like you're building a well-rounded life. And that's going to help you in those hard times, especially gratitude and seeing things as a challenge. So the life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. How can I use this moment to become stronger, to become better? And all those years of training and like pushing myself to lift weights, that mental strength helped me in the time of sickness. And like, I've got to get through this. I can get through this. So I had never planned on rebuilding myself back to my current thing. I'm like, I just want to walk again. Please let
Yeah.
me walk again. It's very scary, And then I had a life-threatening infection for my leg. So it's like kind of that worry of like, you might not even have a leg, right? So it really changes your mindset of like what's really important. So something I wasn't sure if I wanted to share it on social media, but I decided that sharing my real journey back would be helpful to people, because what I saw on social media is it's always about, the best of something. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show the hard, the worst of it. How are we going to get back? How are we going to stay positive? I'm going to share the real, not just here, this is me when it's done, take off a
Yeah.
year and pop on, I'm fine now, but really show that. And that inspired a lot of people to be like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too. And we're going to do it. And something that makes me like kind of tear up when I talked about is there's a police officer. He was wounded in the line of duty at my gym, and he came up to me and he's like, you inspire me to get better. And to me, like, I was just on a tour, I mean, I was on for a vacation. For someone that risk their lives for, you know, the country every single day, that was really humbling, you know. So being true to yourself, being allowing yourself to be a little bit vulnerable is much more impact to others than trying to be something that you think people want to see in you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, and it makes you like a really inside like a better person. Like, hey, this is me. Like, you see me on social media, but if you see me in real life, this is me, and that's really cool. Like, you're not hiding anything, you're just being you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, everybody has struggles. It's one like
Yeah.
it may not be the same exact thing, but everybody can probably relate to, you know, having to overcome something in order to make these changes. So so that's a good thing as well. I mean, maybe I'll ask you about because obviously you have online programs, all of those things. What's it like from an entrepreneurial standpoint for you to, you know, what's the most what has been the most difficult or challenging part of doing that? Because for a
Okay.
lot of people, you know, you know, you have what your core part of what you do is quite different than all the other stuff that go into kind of building, you know, an online kind of you know, community as well as an online platform. So what's that been like for you as an entrepreneur?
I think it's a lot more difficult to build a platform online only because people expect so much
Mm.
for very minimum, right? Because you have the flood of market, everybody has their own app, everybody has their own program. So it's really about connecting with people and meeting a need
Hmm.
and then deciding how much do you want to give of yourself to meet that need. Are you going to charge less in order to sell volume, or are you going to try to attract those quality clients that you can spend more time with one-on-one? So kind of having that in your mind. And a lot of people that are nutrition coaches don't have a family, so they have a lot more time to devote like 24/7 to their clients every single day. So for me, I'm just doing this part-time because
Yeah,
I want to remember like my full-time job is being a mom for my children and sharing that with them. And so I'll just kind of number one, inspire people, kind of show them new ideas, especially with TRX, because that's what really helped me rehab. You
yeah,
know, was that TRX movement or low impact on BOSU, kind of cool, you know, make it cool. And then for those who want a custom program or want to just switch their macros, I not only teach them about macros, but I give them the tools to empower themselves to continue on without me. I don't want you to have to rely on me forever. I want to help you, give you those tools so that you know how to change your life for years, because it does take years to build muscle.
yeah.
And it's going to be your fit. It's a fit life. It's not just fit 8 weeks, right?
Right, right.
It's fit
And
life.
and building that community, I assume, is it almost feeds itself as well, right? When you're teaching them how to do that, they often rely on other people within that community as well.
And if you're open and like real with people, you're going to attract the people that you want to be with anyway, right? So sometimes you can look at people with millions of followers. Well, who are their followers? Would you actually want them to follow you too? Right? Are
Yeah,
you trying to like really inspire quality people, real people, and things like that? And don't sell yourself short. I think a lot of young girls are like, oh, well, this is what social media is. I have to
mhm,
share my body or sell myself. You don't have to do that. Stand up for what you believe in and know like there's something good for you out there.
yeah, yeah. Um, what would people be surprised? Because they do know, they probably know a lot about you if they've been following you for a while. But there's always something. What would people be surprised about that maybe are your community followers that you they maybe don't know about you?
Well, I'm a huge introvert. I'm a huge introvert. I was homeschooled all my life. It was very difficult in high school. The first day of high school, I ate in the bathroom. I had so much anxiety of just like talking to people. And so it was really hard for me. And so when online presence came out, I had this passion of like helping and sharing others. And I'm like, okay, I need to get over this in order to, if I want to help others, I want to share that passion with something. So you kind of have to take those steps. So in high school, I realized like everybody's got problems, everybody's insecure. So you kind of start there. Wherever challenge comes through your thing, how am I going to be better? How can I flip the script on that? So being very shy was a huge thing to overcome, especially seeing myself on social media. That was something I'd never done. I had never taken a
Yeah.
picture without my children since they were born. So at the age of 35, oh, I have to be on on social media all the time by myself. I'm like, that's really strange, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How's that been being? I mean, for some people that's a great experience. Other people, it's like it's a little mixed. And but what is that like, knowing that you do have a fair amount of yourself out there, and that leaves you kind of vulnerable? I'm sure your community is pretty darn good most of the time, but has there been anything like has it been a pretty much a positive experience for you all the way through?
I think it's been a positive experience. You get some things that concern you, and that's when you kind of like need to think. So I used to share more of my children online because I'm a mom. Of course, I
Yeah,
want to share my kids and things like that. Then
sure.
I've got some like questionable comments regarding my children through DMs about,
Yeah,
so I'm like, okay, wait a minute, online isn't safe for them. I'll just say that I'm a mom. You're gonna have to trust I'm a mom, but I'm not gonna
yeah,
show my kids all the time
yeah,
because of that thing. You know what I mean? So you have to protect like minors as well. And so now that my kids are in their later teens, I'm like, okay, I show them more of my stories. But
yeah,
I think that affects kids too if you pull them too much into your kind of business, is like showing your kid as a prop. So I
yeah,
really try not to do that to them because they don't want to be on social media. I'm choosing this, choosing to help others. That doesn't mean I need to force them to like always be on screen as well. So kind of protecting that, because they don't even have cell phones until 15. I'm like, you don't even need to be on social media, right?
yeah,
Be a
yeah.
child, just grow up and just have that time.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So we always ask everyone who comes on the show, we always try to leave the audience with a couple of tips. And I think they've had lots already and know that if they follow you, which we'll give them that stuff in a couple of minutes, so that you can get all these great tips and bits of information. But one thing we just ask is, are there a couple of things if someone's struggling, like listening to this right now, and they're struggling with their weight, or they're really just not kind of at the whole life kind of fitness level they want to be at? Do you have a couple of tips as to how can they start moving in the right direction? Are there a couple of things that can get them, headed in the right direction?
I think with social media being so overwhelming, people having all different kinds of ideas, hiring a coach, at least for an initial session, to help kind of clear your mind of any questions. Do you actually need to have meals written out for you? Are you very sickly where you need to seek a doctor, right? So, nutrition coaches, if you're like really bad off, if you're medically, have a lot of medical issues, no, I'm not a good coach for you. I would refer you to someone else. So,
Yep.
if you start with a nutrition coach and that's what I try to help people do. Set up your weekly program. What do your meals look like each day? What does your training look like each week? And now you have a skeleton plan, right? So you have a work week, you have your fit week laid out, and all you need to do is do it. So having all that kind of clear in your mind first, instead of like, oh, I'll try this diet, okay, now it doesn't work, I'm going to try this diet, and it prolongs the time of you getting healthy or getting to where you want to reach your goals, because you know what I mean, you're kind of bouncing between different things.
Yeah. Okay, great advice. And obviously, the one step is to take a look at your information and kind of what's happening there. So if people are listening and think they maybe want to take a look at what you provide, and also just maybe follow some of your tips and advice as well, what are some of the best ways to do that, Andrea?
So you can follow me on social media. On Instagram, my handle is Andrea Fit 4. And that is a great way. Every day I commit to coming on my story, sharing my real-time fitness. Hey, what am I doing? Hey, let's keep going together, right? Whatever you're doing, you don't have to do the same thing fitness-wise as I'm doing to see similar results. So we're in this together, just kind of picking up tips, and then yeah, just kind of exploring your own journey and learning to love the process, because you can love fitness. And that's what I really push, is like, it's every day I'm like, I get to move, I get to do this. So if someone else can grab that like passion, even if it's 20 minutes in their day, that's going to be phenomenal for you.
That's awesome. And if you didn't get it, we'll make sure we put it in the show notes too. So click through there if and check out the information that Andrea puts up. There's great stuff every day, which is amazing. If you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do that now. We have great people every week, just like Andrea. And again, lots going on in your life. So I appreciate you taking the time today, Andrea. This has been great.
Absolutely, it was good connecting.
All right. And everybody else, we will talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.
Bye.